Hello and welcome. I am the Hapless Romantic, and today I would like to provide an answer to the question, what is Melanaesticism? What do I mean by the term Melanestic? And why is my channel called Melanaestica? Now both words, the noun Melanaesticism as well as the adjective Melanestic, are terms of my own invention. In fact, the word Melanestic is an amalgamation of the words melancholic and aesthetic, or melancholia and aesthetics. And with this term, I try to express a certain mood or feeling. But it's more than that. Far more. Melanaesticism is a whole concept for me. It can mean a multitude of things. But first and foremost, it's a mood and a feeling for me. Let me elaborate. I will try to give a definition and to give you a feeling or a taste of what I mean, but be sure that this explanation is merely scratching the surface. And I intend to elaborate on my Melanestic concept in further videos, and I will try to give various kinds of examples. Now, as I said, Melanestic or Melanaesticism is an amalgamation of the words melancholic and aesthetic. And this already gives an indication of the meaning and the mood that I associate with this term. The most basic definition would be a kind of melancholic beauty. It is an expression of a very personal feeling of mine. It's a feeling with which I identify very strongly and which is very dear to my heart. You might even say it's something holy for me. But I have to be very careful because I could lose myself very easily in endless musings and reflections and philosophical dialogues about the minutest details of this very special feeling which is so dear to me and the complex workings of my inner world. But I mustn't penetrate too deeply because I could talk for hours trying to describe the special moods and the atmospheres that I associate with this Melanestic feeling. But I have to keep an eye on the running time of this video. So I will have to contain myself, at least for now. The Melanestic beauty is the most touching and the most sublime kind of beauty that, in my view, life has to offer. It's a melancholic beauty, hence the term. And it's touching and divine precisely because it's melancholic. For me, melancholia, or the melancholic feeling, is something divine. It's moving and profound, and its roots go very deep. It is able to reach something in the very center, in the very heart of existence. I think it touches the soul in a very tender and sensitive way. And Melanaesticism is a kind of beauty that elevates the soul. It's a kind of transcendent beauty. It has an ethereal aspect. Quite often it is connected to daydreaming and quiet, contemplative, meditative moments in which we are overwhelmed by the beauty and the mystery of life, the awe-inspiring majesty of the universe that brings tears to our eyes, as well as the unfathomable depths of existence. So in a way, the Melanestic experience can also be a kind of epiphany or entrancement. Not always, but yeah, often. I quite often experience this when I come into contact with things that are not only beautiful and melancholic, but that also put me into a pensive, a reflective, philosophical kind of mood. Like, for example, when I visit places, historical places, or come into contact with historic objects. In fact, history and historical objects and places are one of the strongest catalysts for these kinds of moods, at least in my case, because they are able to transfix me with their strong atmosphere. Historical things usually have a heavy aura about them. They are emotionally charged and are loaded with a special kind of magic. So with historical objects, it's very easy for me to be charmed and spellbound and pulled right into these melanistic moods. Generally, time and the stream of time and being part of this stream of time and being engulfed by it, and also at the same time a transcendent feeling of timelessness is a common, important part of the monastic experience. It's a feeling of being carried away by time, being right in the middle of the stream of time, being in the thick of it, so to speak, and at the same time floating above it, being a spectator, transfixed and enamored by the spectacle of time and existence. It's a feeling of both being one with space and time and the whole of existence, as well as being utterly lost and overwhelmed by it. It's the longing of being one with everything, as well as the actual experience, sometimes in very happy circumstances. And at the same time, you feel this overwhelming feeling of beauty as well as sadness and joy, all at the same time. It's a beautiful, divine, enrapturing mixture. And it's a very tender feeling. It's the lightest and the heaviest at the same time. When you feel it, you feel like the slightest breeze might smite you down and carry you away to God knows where. But at the same time, you also feel totally out of all of it, out of existence, in a hyperspace, on another level. But you also feel connected and grateful and very moved, and at the same time you feel an immense and boundless longing to be connected with everything, to be connected with the beauty in front of your eyes. You want to completely merge with this heavenly beauty. You want to be this beauty. You want to drown in it. It's bittersweet because you have this tremendous feeling of joy and elevation, and you feel blessed and kissed by some ineffable divine spirit. But at the same time, you feel unspeakable, profound sadness. Because you see all this beauty, you see the majestic greatness and grandness of existence. But you feel separated, severed for some reason. There is a wall, a distance. You cannot reach it fully. You cannot merge with it completely. So there is also this ambivalent, painful, gut-wrenching aspect of it. It's a two-edged sword. It's a mixture of wistfulness and soulfulness. There is a German term, Beseeltheit. That's a good way to describe it. And Beseeltheit means more or less soulfulness. There is no good word to translate, to describe it in English. It's misery and majesty at the same time. It's a feeling of loss as well as fulfillment. It's like a delicious, exquisite pain of the soul, one might say. It's like looking at the sun. You can't look away. You just stand there, transfixed, and get burned, willingly. You may see in all of this why this feeling so perfectly fits my romanticism. Because romanticism, too, is all about eternal, unfulfilled longing and dreaming and moods and melancholia and deep feeling, and also mysticism and metaphysics and a striving for the ethereal and union with the transcendent. And you might say that my special romantic feeling that I have already tried to describe and to define in other videos is a Melanistic feeling. These two things, the romantic and the Melanistic, are almost interchangeable for me. Well, not just almost, they are. They are the same thing, the same. In their essence, they are the same feeling for me. They belong together. The romantic is Melanistic, and the Melanistic is romantic. And you could also describe the Melanistic as a form of nostalgia, or at least it can be connected to nostalgia and to an immense feeling of sentimentality, which again links to time and history and the past. Because naturally we are only nostalgic when we look back and when we are either filled with a sense of joy when thinking of things past, or when we are filled with longing and sadness because we pine for things that are irretrievably gone, that are lost to us, or that we have never experienced. As in my case, because I am in love with certain historical periods, like for example the Romantic period, about 200 years ago. And I feel a strong pull, a strong emotional connection to that time. And I would love to experience it, but I can't, obviously. So this nostalgic, Melanistic feeling can either relate to something that you have lost, or to something that you wish you had experienced or that you could experience. Quite often, it's also a bit of a vague feeling, like longing for some kind of lost paradise, but you don't have a clear notion of this paradise, and you don't really know where it comes from and why you feel the way you feel, why you pine for this kind of elusive paradise. You just have this deep longing, but you can't really make sense of it. It's kind of a longing in darkness, so to speak. You feel that there is something lacking, and you wish to feel whole. And then you come into contact with a form of beauty that reanimates this obscure longing of yours, that speaks to this lack, this hole inside of you. And you're totally in love with this beauty, because it seems to give you a sense of what you are truly looking for. It gives you a piece, a tiny piece of this paradise that you try to reach. But alas, it's only a small piece. it's a sort of cruel appetizer in a way. Cruel because it shows you this paradise, it shows you a small corner of it, it gives you a sense of fulfillment, but not real fulfillment, just a sense of fulfillment. It's just an intimation, it's a hint, almost like a phantom, and it's very fleeting. It's a blessed moment, yes, it's a blessed moment in time, but it's very fragile and unstable. It crumbles to dust with the smallest disturbance. And then you awake from your blissful slumber and find yourself in the same old reality and feel this lack inside of you all the more acutely and intensely. Because now you have seen the opposite. You have seen paradise. You got to feel this fulfillment and this feeling of completion, albeit very briefly. And so you keep on craving more and more of this fulfillment and this feeling of completion. You search for it, you hunt for it. You want to get into this special state again. And sometimes you succeed. Sometimes you manage to recapture that melanistic feeling. But despite the bliss, from now on, there will always remain a deep sense of melancholia and of pain. Because these are rare moments. These moments will always only be a small respite and a small fix. There always remains the longing for more, for a bigger slice of the cake, a bigger slice of paradise. Now, I'm aware that this description sounds very similar to a psychedelic trip, and in a way, it is. There are definitely similarities. Only there are no substances involved. All you need to experience these melanistic states is a certain kind of sensibility and the right way of looking at things, the right disposition. Some people are predisposed for these kinds of states. It's similar to what I said in my video about romanticism and what it means for me, what it means to be a romantic. You are either born a romantic, you have it in your genes, or you don't. You are bitten by the bug and it comes natural to you, or you will never understand it, I guess. It's the same with Melanaesticism and the capability of melanistic feeling, and for sensing and perceiving and appreciating melanistic moods. Some people just have an innate disposition to feel that way. At least that's how it is in my case. It seems utterly impossible for me to feel any other way. I can't help it. I can't help feeling a deep sense of romantic melancholia, and I can't help feeling attracted to certain melanistic kinds of beauty. And I am also blessed and cursed, whatever way you want to look at it. But it's both, really. I am blessed and cursed with an innate hypersensitivity. And I also happen to have a penchant for art and history and philosophy, and I'm very much of the brooding kind who can spend an endless amount of time thinking about existential topics and standing in front of a painting or an artwork or looking at a beautiful landscape and lose all sense of time and space. That's something you either have or you don't. This capability of totally immersing yourself in these kind of things. Be it an artwork or a landscape or a human face or just a thought. And that's my favorite pastime, actually. Or, to be more precise, it's not just a pastime, it's a state of being. It's the state of being for me. The highest state. If I could, I would always be in this kind of state, this heightened Melanistic state. And yes, it is a state of being, as fleeting as it may be. The Melanistic can also be a state of being, because you can be in this state without being totally enraptured by it. What I mean is this: there are two levels of intensity to this state. There are the acute, the intensive moments where you are totally in it, where you are totally suffused by it. But then there is also this lower level of intensity where you feel that it's there, and everything you see, your whole perception, your whole experience of the world is influenced and tinted by your basic Melanistic streak. It's there, it's always there in the background, but it doesn't overwhelm you. It never leaves, even though it may get drowned by the ugly noise of the world. And by noise, I mean everything, every form of ugliness or sorrow or stupidity or any kind of negative feeling that the world might trigger inside of you. Unfortunately, it is very hard to stay in that divine Melanistic state. At least I am struggling with it. I have to reclaim it and to recapture it on a regular basis. But it's worth it, despite all the bitterness and the bittersweet pain that comes with it. Coming back to what I said earlier, Melanaesticism is very much about intensely perceiving and experiencing, about being overwhelmed, really, by a torrent of feelings and impressions. It's about deeply engaging with the aura of things, immersing yourself in the atmosphere of things, and concentrating on the feelings these things trigger inside of you. It's like activating a highly delicate antenna or a sensor within yourself and scanning the world with it. You need the necessary sensitivity, and in a way you have to let go of your usual way of looking and feeling, the mundane way, so to speak, of perceiving things, of perceiving the things around you only very superficially and not really reflecting upon them or taking the time to really engage with them. You have to open yourself up to things. Open up to their story, to what they can tell you, to their voice, to what they have to say to you, what's buried deep within them, what lies within their hidden depths. You have to jump into the atmosphere of things and let yourself be carried away by your impressions and also your feelings and your mental pictures. And by that I mean the pictures and the associations that the things trigger and evoke inside of you. And that's the best part of any Melanistic experience. The being whisked away on the wings of fancy, on the magnificent stream of consciousness in which you plunge, the wondrous distant lands to which your imagination or your memory or your emotions or some higher part of yourself, whatever you might call it, carries you. You must open up, you must be attentive, you must focus, you must become mindful and centered. You must become very still, very calm. You must find your sensitive side. You must find your sweet spot. You must get into contact with your heart. And you must be willing to receive. You must open the floodgates of feeling. And you must leave the everyday perception behind you. You must step out of your everyday mode of being and step into timelessness. Step into a contemplative state as much as possible. But being open, being sensitive, and being in touch with your heart and your feelings and your lively imagination are the most important prerequisites. I want to give you an example of what I would perceive as a typical Melanistic experience. So let me paint you a picture. Since my childhood, I have been in love with historical buildings and with old English country houses in particular. I love the atmosphere of these old manor houses. They ooze Melanistic atmosphere for me. They are the quintessence, the very definition of the Melanistic for me. It was at places like these, steeped in history and nestled in the beautiful English countryside, that I developed much of my distinctive Melanistic feeling and understanding. So let's say I'm visiting an old manor house dating back to the 15th or 16th century. I would enter through heavy and quite often weather-worn oak doors. And this would already give me the first instance, the first opportunity of a Melanistic daydream. Because remember, Melanaesticism is very closely linked to daydreaming. I would feel the cracks and the indentions in the wood, and I would think about how many people must have passed through this very same door over all the centuries, and how many hands must have used the very same doorknob which I now hold in my hand. I would ponder about the sturdy robustness of this oak door and how, nonetheless, over time, over years and years and countless moments in time, even this sturdy piece of wood has slowly but surely been worn down. How the fangs of time are patiently gnawing at it. How, in the end, despite its robust nature and its defiant resistance, it will have to yield and go the way of all things. The ephemeral, transitory nature of things, the painful impermanence of beauty or of happy, beautiful moments, as well as a feeling of loss or of things ending or of being gone forever, or also the reminiscing about and longing for things past or for unattainable things. All this is quintessential Melanaesticism. And so I would enter through this door and I would experience all these feelings and associations, and this would continue whilst I would make my way through the house. Although that doesn't mean that all the rooms would have the same effect on me, because this is a very personal and individualistic experience. So some things would have a greater effect upon me than others. Sometimes it's a small, inconspicuous detail that might capture my imagination. It has to speak to me on a very personal level. It has to move me and inspire me and grip me in a special kind of way. And these will be different things for different people. For me, it might be a personal object, once owned by a person, or an old musical instrument, or an old book, or worn stairs or floorboards, or a portrait of an ancestor who once lived in this house, or just a certain corner of a room, or a windowsill with a particularly entrancing window, or a picturesque view. Or it's the way the light shines through the window and illuminates the room. It can be so many things. And the more things work together, the more magical and overwhelming it can be. I mean, if many small and separate things, which already are in themselves moving and beautiful and atmospheric and evocative, when so many small things, beautiful things, small things in themselves come together, work together, when they blend into each other and complement each other to create one super impression, one big overwhelming state or overwhelming atmosphere, then you have the highest form of beauty, the highest form of Melanaesticism. And these are just a few examples. And it is important to note that the Melanistic feeling or quality can be applied to many different things, not just objects or places. A piece of music or a piece of art can also have a Melanistic character, as well as immaterial things, like, for example, a relationship, primarily, of course, a romantic relationship between lovers, or the personality of a person, as well as their life, their fate, their suffering, maybe. For example, the tragic romantic life of the English poet John Keats, or also of fictional characters such as Romeo and Juliet, for example. These also can be seen as Melanistic. The whole existence can be seen as a romantic, Melanistic drama. And in fact, this is exactly the way I want to see it. This feeling is such a basic feeling for me. It's an essential feature of my personality and of the way I perceive the world. It can be wonderful and sublime, but it can also throw me into deep despair. Quite often, the beautiful, tender, ethereal language the Melanistic goddess speaks to me tortures my soul. Why? Because the contrast between this sacred state of being and the coarse, soulless, soul-draining, soul-destroying everyday reality is too strong, too severe, too painful. Nonetheless, I wouldn't want to miss it. I am very thankful for having the capability of harboring and experiencing this feeling, even though it makes me feel at odds with the world quite often, constantly actually. Okay, I think that's quite enough for now. If you have made it this far, I can only applaud you. You truly are of a very rare and special breed. Thank you for watching from the bottom of my heart. And if you like my content, then please consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel. And if you have similar feelings and would like to share your feelings and experiences with me, then please feel free to leave a comment or get into contact with me. I would love to hear from you. And so I say, until we meet again, good night out there, whoever, whatever, and wherever you may be. Bye-bye.